Welcome back to another week of the Brazos Sports PrepsCast. I'm Alex Miller here from the Eagle, joined by Abigail Ochoa, our high school sports reporter. And here we are, another week, another podcast breaking down high school football in the Brazos Valley. Abigail, how are we doing this week?
Pretty good. It was a good second week as well. I think teams are continuing, especially local teams, continuing to show out and show what they can do. And district's about to start for some of them, so it should be a good one this week as well.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot to cover, and we've got College Station starting district, as we said. We're going to have Scott Clendenin, the voice of the Cougars, on here in a second to break down the Cougars District 8 in 5A Division 1. But first, we had some big games last week, so let's go and around the horn and recap what happened. Let's start with the Rudder Rangers. They're 2-0 for the first time since 2010. That offense is clicking. They scored on every possession of the second half in the big win over Pflugerville Weiss. They had to hang on there. Defense got some work to do, but hey, that EJ Izar Keithron Lee connection just continues to be electric. Keithron Lee, our player of the week. I'm pretty sure he was Dave Campbell's player of the week in the state. 6 touchdowns. Izar got 593 total yards. He leads the entire state in 5A, 6A divisions in passing yards. And I'm pretty sure Keithron Lee leads the state in the same classifications in receiving yards. So Rangers, they're making a statement here early, Abigail. You were out there. What'd you see from Rudder?
Yeah, I felt like I was at a basketball game for a little bit. It was 63-59 was the final over Weiss. It was a long game, I think it was almost about 3 hours, so pretty long for those offenses and defenses to be going at each other. But like you mentioned, Alex, Rudder's offense really, really came out for them last week. They scored on every possession in the second half. Weiss did not stop them once. Rudder ended up getting a big stop on defense once on a Weiss possession that ended up kind of sealing the deal and giving Izar and Lee another chance to kind of come out and take the win a little bit. But yeah, it was crazy. I think it's going to be really important for this week to kind of see all of the aspects of the game come together. Obviously, we know the offense can do wonders for a game. I mean, to put up 63 points, against a Weiss offense that was really, really coming at them is amazing to see, especially just in week 2. So we know what they can do, but now it's kind of just getting to see how the defense will step up, especially before district, and then also getting the special teams to come up a little bit. The defense and special teams did good against Bastrop. It was kind of, firing on all cylinders kind of win for them. But this week it kind of changed a little bit. Defense, they were getting tired. I mean, going out almost every, few minutes because your offense scored. It was tiring for me to watch, and I bet it was tiring for them to keep going out. And then special teams, they had, a few returns there from Weiss that were pretty long. They had an 84-yard return. So things like that are going to need to be kind of fixed up before they get to district. We know what their offense can do, but now we got to see what everybody else can do.
Yeah, big win for the Rangers. We'll see if they can keep it rolling. We'll preview their game here in a minute, but let's keep rolling. A&M Consolidated, they're still rolling on all cylinders. They rolled to a 48-21 win over Leander Rouse. Quarterback Kyle Willis still strong, taking over for Gage Paul behind under center in the shotgun mostly. 2 big games to start the season. He threw for 4 touchdowns, rushed for another. Greaves, Walter, Wright, Sutton Lake, they all caught touchdown passes. Quan Williams, 2 interceptions for the defense. Another nice win for the Tigers. And Leaf Fedora's squad, they're rolling, and it's by committee another week and another victory.
Yeah, and we talked about last week, we weren't sure how they were going to do against Rouse. Rouse had just won the week before. So we weren't quite sure how they would go, if maybe Consol would get stopped a little bit, if they would maybe slow down. But they did it. I mean, to get, what was it, 4 receivers to get a touchdown in one night. Willis is obviously doing very well, coming up and stepping into that quarterback position. He's using all of his weapons, all of his receivers, it seems like. We got Lake back in there, doing great things for them as well. So it was nice to see the offense kind of all come together again. It doesn't seem like they're slowing down at all, kind of similar to Rudder almost, where the offense seems to be so high up there. And then we also get the defense this week as well with those 2 interceptions that are going to be crucial, especially when you start getting, like I said, into district, when you get those tougher teams, tougher defenses. So offenses as well. So it was good to see that they all kind of come together. Obviously, Willis is using every weapon he can.
Yeah, and Consol, they got their home opener this week. We'll get to that in a second. Big game potentially for Coach Lee Fedora. We'll discuss that here in a minute. Last but not least, in our big schools, College Station Cougars shutting out Fort Bend Bush 54-0 Saturday afternoon down in Houston. Their defense, Cougars, limited Bush to 83 yards of total offense. And the duo of Roderick Brown and Marquise Collins, another strong day on the ground for the Cougars. And, wow, they are rolling into district play and what's going to be a pretty difficult district slate for them, too.
Yeah, totally. We'll talk to Scott with this about this as well. But obviously, College Station's offense, like we talked about, Collins, Brown, also Jet Huff coming in, seemed to be really, really strong to start the season. We've talked about, they had to replace these people. We weren't sure how that was going to look or work, but it's working very well for them. They look really strong out there. The defense also kind of showed out today. I think they only allowed 83 yards of offense, which is crazy. To me, but they obviously have some strength there as well. So, we'll talk a little bit more about it with Scott, but they seem to look really good right now. They're going to need maybe that little bit of confidence kind of going into district against Magnolia, but we'll get into that as well.
For sure. Well, couple quick hitters on the small school ranks. Leon rolling over Centerville. 44-14. It wasn't even close. I was out there last week in Jewett. First time in 10 years that Leon's beat their county rival Centerville. Strong passing night from Jacob Robinson. He had a big game through the air. And Tyson Cornett, he was their leading receiver, and Centerville did a good job neutralizing him. But, Logan Noe, Tito Gonzalez, they stepped up big for the Cougars. And Centerville, it was a tough game for them. They had 4 turnovers, made a huge difference. And we learned that the Tigers' star sophomore running back, Paxton Hancock, he is going to be out for the season with a broken leg. That is a devastating blow to Centerville, who they were on a 4-game winning streak, and it looked like they were just going to be ripping and roaring into district play. Big win over Bremond the week before on the road, and all of a sudden, there's some question marks around this Centerville team. But on the flip side, Leon, what a statement win, a huge win for Jeremy Colvert's squad. It was a big win for them on Friday.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen what Robertson can do, and he did it again this week. I don't think anybody I certainly didn't think that they were going to come out with that win, but it was quite the win to come out with. When Centerville's missing Hancock like that, it's really, really hard. I can imagine to get your defense up and ready, and you're missing a big guy. We're like, how are we going to do this? So that really hurt them, with that leg. Obviously, he'll be out for the rest of the season, so it's not good news to hear at all for them especially. But, yeah, Leon, wow, really came out with a stunner in this week. So I bet that was a cool game, Alex.
Yeah, another stunner out in Milam County, Rockdale. They just rolled over Cameron 42-9. We discussed this game last week, and we thought it would be a good game. And Rockdale, they really needed a win. They've lost 3 straight. And, I mean, they just took it to Cameron. They win the brass train bell this year, snapping that 3-game losing streak. And how about the Tiger defense, holding Zane Zeinert to 83 yards passing, and they forced 4 turnovers? I mean, Zeinert, he's one of the state leaders in passing. He has 845 yards and 10 touchdowns through the air this year. And on the flip side, Cameron Valdez, 138 yards. Kobe Mitchell, he had a strong game through the air with his legs. And how about Raven on the defensive side? 3 interceptions, and he added a touchdown. Man, Rockdale really needed that win. And what a statement for them. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, they weren't going to let Cameron go until they got that top score. But it was crazy to me that Rockdale had they had a 3-game losing streak, which is kind of for them with the amount of people that they have. Like we mentioned, Valdez, Mitchell, Raven. You got those star power guys on your team. You don't want to get into that rut of losing. You're like, why are we losing at this point? And I think they really came out and showed like, hey, we're still here. We can still do this. And we're still in it. We talked about last week them winning against Cameron was going to be big for them in district if they want to get anywhere later in the season. So I think a lot was riding on it, and they really felt that pressure probably to come out with a win, and they did it great. I mean, they hold Cameron to 9. Like you mentioned, Zaynard, I mean, that guy was throwing, hundreds of yards every week, and then you hold him to 83. A little shocking to see that they were able to do that, but also good for them to know that they are able to do that. I mean, they have a good stretch now. They play Little River, Caldwell next, things like that. So it'll be good for them, continuing into district. I'm sure this maybe gave them a chance to say, hey, what are we doing here? Let's improve this a little bit. And obviously those guys came out. Valdez, like you said, had 139 yards. Mitchell had 117 passing. So they obviously know that they can do it. It's just about them coming out and, competing.
Well, that's really all we got. Wrapping up week 6/week 2. It's kind of fun bouncing back and forth between big and small schools. We're in the heart of district play, and we're kind of about to start district play. And speaking of district play, up next we've got Scott Clendenin. He's the voice of the College Station Cougars. Going to preview District 8 in 5A Division 1. Well, joining us now on the Brazos Sports PrepsCast is our friend Scott Clendenin, the voice of the College Station Cougars. College Station opening up 8 5A Division 1 district play this week against the Magnolia Bulldogs on the road. So, of course, we had to invite Scott on to get some insight on how the Cougars are doing so far and just kind of his expectations for them heading into this new district slate. So, Scott, thanks for taking a few minutes of your time to join us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Alex, I appreciate you having me on. I think that, this district is starting to look like everybody thought it was as far as the strength at the top. You had 6 teams or 5 teams that made the playoffs last year. And, you're going to have to play pretty good football from this point forward to get in. I thought they've looked pretty good despite the fact that it's really week 2. That 5 weeks of practice before they even played a game after school had started really seemed to have them playing at a pretty high level.
Yeah, so, you've been able to see the Cougars the last 2 weeks. Abigail's going to be out there this Friday in Magnolia. What's been good and what needs to improve? I mean, they've had 2 convincing wins, but I talked to Coach Huff yesterday, and there's still some room for improvement, they feel like, even though they've played pretty well.
Yeah, I think that offensively, the skill position guys that they have really been very good. I think that Hutto showed in week 2, that was a kind of opponent they wanted to take on and see that speed. And, I think they would probably still be a playoff team if they were still playing 5A ball, but moving up to 6A, it's going to be a hard road for them to get in to the playoffs. I thought last week against Fort Bend Bush, they really overmatched them. It looked like Bush's numbers were down a bit as well. So, they got after them, offensively right away. Defense was great. I thought the defense, the way they played against Hutto, they stepped it up another level, and then played an opponent that's not quite as good. I mean, they gave up 31 yards on the first snap of the game, and then they didn't allow Bush to get across midfield the rest of the game. They had a 4th and 3 from the 48-yard line at the right at the end of the game, which would have been their second time to cross midfield, and the Cougars got a sack there and a tackle for loss and didn't let them cross midfield again. So they were dominant defensively, and I think they've got to be prepared to win some games with their offense, because there's going to be a lot of teams in this league that you're not going to have that kind of defensive domination against the teams that are going to be fighting for the playoffs. And most of them are going to bring out an offense that's going to put some stress on your defense.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you mentioned tough defenses coming up. Obviously, Magnolia here in the first week of district, no different here. I believe they're returning eight starters on defense. And then, last week when they played Brenham, they had, their defense got 2 big touchdowns for them. So like you said, Scott, kind of College Station is doing well and has been doing well, but they're going to start seeing these defenses that are a little bit tougher, obviously in a district that's already tough enough.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things about several of these teams is, and starting with Magnolia, they're going to put an offensive line out there that has, besides Wyckoff, who's committed to Texas A&M, and, a top 100, offensive lineman in the state. They've got some other big guys there. That was one of the things that impressed me about their offense last year. And their running back ran for over 2,000 yards because of, they're going to feature him. They're going to feature that line. They also have, a guy in quarterback coming back. So this will be a team that, whereas the Cougars haven't seen an experienced, quarterback last week, they really got after Doggett in week 1 for Hutto. So if they can have that kind of pressure and, get after the quarterback through that offensive line, I think it would play pretty well the rest of the year.
This is a strong district top to bottom. Obviously, College Station with the playoff pedigree, Lufkin, 2-time reigning district champion. You add New Caney and New Caney Porter, district champion, or district runner-up. This is a strong district from start to finish. How difficult is it, and who really are the top challengers in your opinion?
Well, the interesting thing is, with the Cougars moving in the top 10 of the state polls, they were at about 16 to start the year on Texas football's computer ranking. So I went back and I looked today. The Cougars are number 10, so they're just one spot below where they are in the polls at number 10. Magnolia's 23rd, Mag West is 22nd, Lufkin is 25th. And then you go to New Caney 32nd and New Caney Porter 53. So you have all those teams that have shown, even though they've overmatched some of the teams that they've played in non-district, that they've got the power ranking, as far as what they're looking at, as far as the computers and matching strength of schedules. So, I mean, there's going to be, last year there was one good team that got left out of the playoffs. That happened to be Tomball last year. This year, there's going to be 2 really good football teams that aren't going to go play in the playoffs. And I think that's one of the things about this district when it started, that you looked at Caney Creek, Waller, and then Cleveland, they were going to get run over a bunch in district. So, when you play them, when you have to play the MAG schools, who do you have to play after you play Lufkin, a big physical team? Who you have to play after you play Magnolia, a big physical team? I think that's going to play a lot into what happens in district play, because if you get beat up on a Friday night the week before, and say it's when the Cougars have to go play on a Thursday night the next week, then you get that short weekend there. How ready are you going to be? So I think that's where this district is really going to test some people, is what you do with that short week with a couple schools that you may play on a Thursday night. And, are you going to be ready to play those short weeks with the physicality that you may have the week before?
For sure. And, with playoffs being a focus, especially for College Station, made the playoffs every year they've been eligible, how important and valuable is it to be able to play such a strong district top to bottom throughout the regular season in hopes that you're preparing for a postseason run, especially when you're in Region 2 And that's got to be one of the toughest regions in the entire state of any classification.
Well, I think you're exactly right, Alex, because you still have Highland Park in Region 2. You've got all the Frisco schools in Region 2. And then you drop Longview from 6A, 2 years removed from a state championship, down into Region 2. Mix that in with Tyler. We already have Lufkin in district. So, I mean, Region 2,
Denton Ryan.
Denton Ryan, Region 2 and Region 3 just are so very, very tough. And I think that one of the reasons why, the Cougars kind of built towards a state championship was because they were in Region 3 and they played that, non-district schedule that was tough. Then they've had to play tough playoffs. The guy doing the radio for Bush this week said, hey, I was doing Marshall. Marshall could have very easily made the run to the state tournament. The state championship game, when the Cougars beat them 2 years in a row. They were that talented. That tells you how important that game was, in the regional final and, or the regional semifinals, that those teams are talented enough and deep enough to make a run. And I think that's the same kind of thing this year I think that the key for this is if Longview is going to win the other district, you don't want to be the fourth place team. I think we ran into the exact same thing, last year. And now that the UIL changed the playoffs to where the first and second place teams host in the first round, I think that's going to magnify things, because you may go on the road. Who knows what kind of, attendance you could see if you're going to go to East Texas where, quite frankly, if you're going to go, play at Longview, I don't know how they're not going to have at least 50 to 75% of that stadium full just because it's a playoff game and they're going to say, hey, this is what the rules are right now. We're going to pack it out. So you really don't want to be that team that has to go on the road there. You want to be in first or second in this district. So you host in the first round because that's going to be the best way to make a run. Now it's been bad luck for the Cougars 2 years in a row. Played a defending champion Highland Park 2 years ago, and then they played Frisco that made a run to the semifinals. So it doesn't really matter. District 8 match with District 7, and then you get the winner coming out of 5 and 6. That's usually one of the Frisco teams, or it's Highland Park, and it makes it real difficult and gets exponentially difficult as you start trying to make your way into the finals.
Well, Scott, I guess just kind of in part, the Cougars, they really haven't come across a problem yet. They've really rolled in these first two games. And so I guess the question is, how well will that continue into district? And they're playing Magnolia this week. They're coming off a big win against Brenham. They've got a strong defense, returning a lot of starters. What's going to be the key for College Station on Friday?
I really like the progression that Jet Huff has made since last year. I think he's playing more under control. I've seen him not make some plays that last year he would have tried to force something, make something happen. He took a sack in a good spot where if he had tried to throw the ball, it probably would have been an interception, maybe a pick six. He took a sack against Hutto. I thought that was a mature move in the right direction. And then I think that, the way Roderick Brown and Marquise Collins have run the football, that's going to be their bread and butter. If they can continue to get play action out of that, the way Huff is playing, it really can do some damage. I think that, one of the school, New Caney, is going to the Cuero offense as their coaches come up from there. Not surprised it's a wing T slot type running game. Most of the teams in this district are going to try to have some balance. But, like we're going to see this Friday night, Magnolia with a 2,000-yard rusher behind an offensive line that can really get after you. There's a reason why they run the football like they do. And I think back to Lufkin, the team that everybody thought was going to be the team to beat. A couple weeks ago against Tyler Legacy, they gave up 530 yards rushing. This might be the year where Lufkin doesn't have the size and the college players that normally dot their defensive front, that maybe being able to run the football in some of these games will make a difference and give you a chance to get by Lufkin and finally knock them off the perch as being district champion.
Well, Scott, thanks for taking a few minutes to talk a little College Station Cougars with us. And how can folks listen to the game Friday night that aren't able to make it out to Magnolia?
Well, we'll be on Maverick 100.9 FM. Pregame will start at 6:30. That's the other good thing about district play this year. Everything's kicking at 7. We really like that. And then also when we get back home in a couple weeks, we do a simulcast as far as also being on the internet. So you can tune in that way and get to see Tim Schnettler and myself as we call the game, get to watch some video. If you're not one of the, people that can get out due to, COVID or the limited tickets that the Cougars are selling right now, you can still watch and listen to us. You can go in onto the College Station High School athletic website and get the information on how to see us, on video.
Awesome. Thanks again, Scott, for joining us. And in our next segment, we're going to look ahead to the biggest matchups here in town and across the area in week 7 of the small schools and week 3 of our 5 and 6A schools. Some breaking news here on the Brazos Sports PrepsCast. Rudder High School, their football game Friday night against Waco University has been canceled as the Trojans team is experiencing some COVID-19 cases. Not a lot of info yet, but it sounds like the Rangers are expecting to have a replacement game. It's homecoming for them. So not only a home game, but a big night. I know fans are excited for that. So Bryan ISD expecting to release something here soon, but to be determined for now. Stay tuned at theeagle.com for more information. Abigail, if Rudder wasn't able to play, how tough would that be? But it sounds like they're going to be able to get a replacement game, which is good for them and the kids.
Yeah, Rudder's going to want to get their defense out there more, get their special teams out there more, get their offense a little bit more experience, a little bit more confidence going in. So it's good that they're trying to find another opponent. That's going to be pretty important for them. I think maybe taking a week off would hurt, especially before district and stuff. So, depending on the opponent, it doesn't really matter at this point, but it's going to be good that they still play this week. But if you're listening on Thursday, it might be out already, so check the Eagle. If you're listening on Wednesday, then it should be coming out pretty soon within the next hour or so. So stay tuned as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who the Rangers will schedule. Could be a different type of matchup. We kind of expected Rudder to roll over Waco University, but hey, maybe it's a good thing that maybe they'll get a chance to play a higher caliber team. So guess we'll see.
Get some challenge in there maybe a little bit. We saw it last week with Weiss, but they were still able to come out on top. So maybe this week it'll be a little different, which might be good for them in the end, like you said, Alex. So
awesome. Well, we'll be back here in a minute previewing week 7/week 3 of Brazos Valley High School football season. Yeah. So A&M Consolidated, they've got their home opener against San Angelo Central. I Googled how far it is to San Angelo. It is 4 hours and 50 minutes. So shout out to San Angelo for making the hike over here. Coach Lee Fedora, with a win Friday, would have his 200th career victory as a head coach. That's an important milestone. San Angelo Central, they've lost by 26 points or more in each game this season. A&M Consolidated's offense is rolling. The Tigers are favored in this one, and it's a big game for them. Not only the home opener, but I know Coach Fedora, I'm sure he would love to get that milestone.
Yeah, it's our first time at home. They opened up 2 weeks on the road, which is, I'm sure, never fun for any team. But now they're coming back home. Fedora has a chance to get his 200th win at his own stadium, at the stadium that he used to play at, when he was in high school, in the town that he went to college at. So it's just kind of all together. I'm sure this will be an amazing time if they do win on Friday. I talked to Fedora a little bit about that. We're doing a feature as well. You can find that in Friday's paper and at theeagle.com this weekend. But he's really excited about this possibility. It's a big goal for a lot of coaches and for him as well. So, he has a staff that he's had around him for years. He has a really good offense, really good, just all together a good team that's coming together. And I'm sure I can imagine they really want this win at home. And I can imagine that, San Angelo, they're coming a long way. Which is crazy, almost 5 hours, like Alex said. I don't know, that's a long trek. But, Gonzalez they don't seem like they can be stopped or contained quite yet. I don't expect them to slow down anytime soon or this week. Can imagine they want that win. If they continue to use those receivers, Willis, I'm sure, is going to keep hitting them if they just keep being there. So it'll be a really good one, Alex. But what do you think about Gonzalez so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to see that offense. It's spread the wealth, use the guys. They're really using the running back well with Sutton Lake. They're really getting the ball out to a variety of receivers, and on the other side, defense has played pretty well. So I've been impressed with Consol. They're still ranked in the top 10 Harris ratings, Dave Campbell's. So we'll see what Consol has in store on Friday. Last game we want to mention on the big schools, just real quick, Brenham, they open 13 5A Division II play this week. The Cubs, they've opened with 2 losses to the Magnolia schools, Magnolia West, but chance to rebound this week with a road game at Leander Glen. Cubs, they've got some athletes out there, just haven't been able to really put it together yet. Really curious to see what they've got in store for district play. They made a good run last year, was able to go out there late in the season, see Burnham play.
Yeah, they opened, like you said, they opened up with a Magnolia loss. Magnolia's defense was able to really kind of come in and stop them quite a bit. I know Magnolia had they returned a Bremen fumble for a touchdown. They also had an interception that ended up being a touchdown, once the offense got out there. So Brenham, maybe not starting off on the right foot with district, but it's a tough one. Like we mentioned with College Station, it's going to be a super tough district. It's a super tough region. You're going to want to be one of those top 2 schools when it comes to the playoffs. But, going into this week, I'm sure they're pretty pumped about this, kind of coming back and from that loss against Magnolia.
And the good thing for Brenham, too, battle-tested, Magnolia West, those are 2 playoff teams, could be easily. And, it's a whole new season. You kind of get a clean slate when you start district because those are the games that really matter. Obviously, you want to build momentum early. You want to get those non-district wins. But at the end of the day, it's 0-0, and it's time to roll. So we'll see what Burnham's got. In the area this week, we've got a few games. The big one, Leon at Normandy this week. Man, Leon, they got the big win last week, but now they get to go on the road and play undefeated Normandy and Mason Hardy. Panthers 54-20 win over Groveton last week. This is going to be such a great game between 2 very powerful offenses, 2 star quarterbacks with Mason Hardy going against Jacob Robinson. So I guess the question is, can Leon pull off another big game and give Normandy its first loss of the season? And you look at it, this is kind of a big game for that district early on. I mean, even though it's only through 2 games, those are 2 of the top teams, can really have some big implications seeding wise as we go down the stretch here.
Yeah, if Leon's able to come out with this win, it's going to be a hard-fought win. They're not going to get this easy. Normandy has not lost a game this season. I saw them against Fremont in the first week. They looked good then. They still look good now. Mason Hardy, he can run, he can pass, he could, he's their guy this year. He has great receivers who are on the outside for him, Isaiah Jones, Gary, all these kids. So it's going to be a tough game for Leon if they want to come out and win this one. Normandy is it's going to be tough for them too. It's not going to be a walk in the park, easy win for them either. Especially after Leon's game last week, being able, obviously the defense was able to stop Centerville's offense, who was on a roll, and then you got the offense as well, doing great for them too. So it's not going to be an easy win for either team. Like you said, we have Hardy against Robinson. So we've seen what both of these guys can do. They're explosive when they want to be, and they can really fight hard for a win. So it's going to be a good game. but it's not going to be easy for either team to come out with a win this week. And it'll be interesting to see how Normandy kind of deals with this. This might be their first real hard-fought, other than Bremont maybe in the beginning, hard-fought win. And it'll really set them up for the rest of the district, I think.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great game out in Leon County. Couple other quick hitters. Calvert, they're going to take on Allen Academy 6-man level, 7 p.m. at Baker Field Friday night. This is a rescheduled game. Allen Academy's game was canceled, and Calvert had an open date. So Rams versus Trojans Friday night at Baker Field. Should be a good one. Calvert, they've got a strong squad. Allen Academy, they're looking to make a deep run down at the private school ranks. So, yeah, I think this is a good non-district game for each of these schools. And wrapping up, Anderson Shiro, just wanted to note that their game against Hempel, District 12, 3A Division 2, that got moved to Thursday due to the impending weather from Hurricane Delta. I also think, is Caldwell playing Rockdale this week? I believe Caldwell is playing Rockdale this week. So I guess we'll see what the Tigers have. And playing down the road with Caldwell should be a good game out there in Burleson County. So, Abigail, I think we've covered all the bases. It's going to be another good week of football in the Brazos Valley.
Yeah, for sure. Some great matchups this week. Some people are starting district, like you mentioned. Some people are so far in district already. The weeks are kind of flowing together now that we've talked about it, but it should be a good one. You got some teams trying to prove some things. You got certain players trying to prove some things. But yeah, it should be another great week.
Absolutely. And you can follow along our action Friday night. Abigail's going to be out in Magnolia covering Magnolia versus College Station. Our Richard Kroom's going to be out at Rudder covering the Rangers game against Waco University. We're going to have a writer at A&M Consolidated against San Angelo Central. And we should have somebody else going out either to Leon versus Normandy or out to Caldwell to see the Hornets take on the Tigers. Still trying to finalize some personnel stuff, but we're gonna have another jam-packed week of coverage from the Eagle. You can follow along at Brazos Sports and at theeagle.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, the Brazos Sports PrepsCast, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, because who doesn't like hearing about more high school football? It's Texas. It's the fall. That's what you want on a Friday. That's all we're here for.
Come on.
I'm kidding. Just kind of. But thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Brazos Sports PrepsCast. We'll be back next week, bringing down more action and more teams, big schools. They're going to start some districts, so we'll have preview of that. For Abigail Ochoa, I'm Alex Miller. Y'all have a fantastic weekend.